Hello and welcome to the March edition of Marshall Chamber Community Connect. This month's guest is David Schelkoph. David is the general manager of 7 months now at Marshall Municipal Utilities. Thanks for being my guest this month.
It's great to be here, Brad. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. As always, let's talk about some of the larger community events from last month in February. The Alaska Anchorage Ice Dogs, it's just a pleasure to have them in town. I see them, the players at the Y, they're giving back to the community. It's good to see as much as they're doing. Of course, right now you can have 250 people at these games. David, have you been to one of those games yet?
Not yet, but I see them and I hear them. And I got some people that I work with that love hockey, so I get a regular report.
Right. Yes, it is great. It's great for the community. It's good to see as much energy, and especially for all the cool things they do for the kids at these games. The 2021 Mustang Ice Classic happened over the President's Day weekend. And what was different this year, obviously virtual, like everything, but you can just go fish at whatever lake or wherever was frozen. Of course, that weekend, if you remember President's Day weekend, it was like minus 20 degrees. So kudos to everybody that was actually went out and ice fished that weekend. They had over 600 fish submitted to the tournament. They sold 900 tickets for the raffle, and congratulations to Jessica Hilgman for winning that. And like I said, the temperature was as low as minus 30. So thanks to those who came out.
Now, I like ice fishing, but I don't think I would have gone out.
Especially you'd have to be in a house, not one of the portable ones. Burr.
Yes.
Rock on Ice was held on President's Day. That was a Monday, and we had all sorts of kids. There was 142 participants came out to Rock on Ice on that Monday, President's Day. All sorts of kids, and thanks to VAST, the YMCA, and Christian Becker State Farm, who were partners and sponsors for that event. The 2021 Marshall Radio Bridal Extravaganza was on February 21st at Bella Cucina. Lots of people came out, 110 attendees, 40 brides were registered along with their guests, 20 vendors all were signed up, anywhere from floral, people that, flower people. What are they called?
Florists.
Florists.
There you go.
Sorry.
Flautist.
Yeah, jewelers and DJs were all there, so thanks to everybody that came out to the bridal extravaganza. And congratulations to Erica Morrow. Erica Morrow, who won the $3,000 diamond that Marshall Radio gave away. And as you can see in the picture, she is shown here at John Full with Marcotte Jewelry. Last week, the Egg Bowl Scholarship, which is one of the larger events that's helped put on by SMSU Athletics and FFA in the area, took last place. It was held virtually. 19 career development events, which was the same as last year. 724 participants, up from 633, most participants ever. Congratulations. 55 schools this year, 38 last year, and 25 new schools to the competition. So congratulations to SMSU Athletics, who puts this on, and FFA. It's amazing, some of these things that actually are more successful virtually. Cultures on the Prairie took place last Tuesday on the 23rd with around 120 people in attendance. Of course, this is another virtual conference. They were able to welcome participants from across the state to engage in meaningful conversations around diversity and equity. So they look forward to being back in person next year. So that's February. Look forward, and we'll kind of touch on March here in a little bit. So that kind of brings us to our guest. Again, David Schelkoph is the general manager at Marshall Municipal Utilities. He's been the GM now here for 7 months. David is a veteran of the United States Air Force. He has an electronic engineering degree from North Dakota State, and he's obviously a proud fan of the Bison and Cherry Lance.
Go Bison.
Worked in various engineering and management positions in 3 different utility organizations before coming to MMU. Married to Renee, and he boasts of 3 married children, and more importantly, 3 grandchildren. Renee and David have purchased a home here in Marshall and enjoy the water and electrical services provided by MMU. Of course, a little plug there for MMU. So again, thanks for being my guest. David, some questions going on. Obviously, with the cold snap that happened around the same time around President's Day week, and it was just ridiculous. And it just wasn't Minnesota, it was Texas. It was the whole Midwest, and it just caused something I've never heard before, which is called a rolling blackout. So touch on that, talk about our utility neighbors, and kind of give us a report on how that affected the customers of MMU.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Brad. I appreciate that. As you all know, we had the coldest weather of the winter 2 weeks ago, and our transmission and generation grid is broken up into various regions called Regional Transmission Organizations, RTOs is short for that. And they all have different names. For example, Municipal Marshall itself is a part of a MISO RTO. And right next to us, our neighbors, the cooperative that serves around Marshall belongs to an SSP, or Southwest Power Pool RTO. Now, it was a SSP, you probably heard it in the news. SSP was the one that didn't have enough generation for their customers. So they had to do what they call a rolling blackout. So they would take certain communities and certain loads offline for a short period of time and then rotate that around their territory. And that's why some of the people around Marshall, Minnesota, were actually off for an hour, hour and a half. Now, that's unfortunate. Now, here's the good news. MMU, Marshall Municipal Utilities, did not have to do that. We belonged to MISO, and MISO had plenty of power and plenty of transmission to be able to push that power around and serve the customers, our customers here in Marshall. And that's the good news for us. The bad news for the nation is that we have to take a harder look at these RTOs, these regional transmission organizations, see how they're managing and what do they do for what we call contingencies. And this cold weather would be a contingency. And so they have to plan for that to make sure they have enough generation and enough transmission line, transmission is nothing but a big power line, the ones that are really tall. And so if they have enough of that, they'll be able to keep the lights on. If they don't, well, then you're going to have to do what we call rolling blackouts. And again, MMU did not have to do that. Our partnership with our power suppliers gave us enough stability so that our area did not have to have any rolling blackouts.
Sure. Okay. And kind of related question to that, David. What is Marshall's record for providing electrical power to Marshall?
I'm glad you asked that. So about 15 years ago, Marshall started on what we call an underground project. So all of our distribution lines, when you go into a town, you typically see power lines with 3 wires on top of it, and it goes right along the road or maybe in an alleyway. But Marshall Municipal Utilities, about 15 years ago, decided that they're going to take all of that overhead stuff, the stuff you see, and put it underground. Now, we're nearing the end of those projects, and almost all of our distribution is underground now. Probably 99.5% of our distribution overhead is underground. So what does that do for us here in Marshall? Well, it gives us some of the best service electrically around. Matter of fact, we measure every month how many hours our customers are without power. And right now, at the end of the last year, it was 99.9, get this now, 99.999% of the time, our lights were on here in Marshall, Minnesota. If anybody understands the complexity of the communications grid and the FCC requirements, that's just as good as your cell phones. So this is an amazing thing that we have here, and we're very, very proud of that. MMU has worked diligently for decades to create a distribution facilities and distribution infrastructure that brings great value to our customers.
How does that compare? So almost 100%, no lights out. How does that compare with other utilities in the area?
Well, I tell you what, I can tell you some of my experiences. If I got 97% or above, I would be doing very, very well. So, in other words, everybody would be out a couple hours a year. And that is just not happening here at MMU. I'll tell you a little story if you got a chance.
Absolutely.
So I know of a person here who used to work in Marshall that just recently moved to another community in another state. He purchased a home in a residential area in a community in another state, in another place where power is delivered differently. And he noticed that there was this big old box right next to the meter, the electric meter, and he didn't look at it. And he took a picture of it and he sent it back, and we took a look at that, and we took a look. It's a Generac generator. Now, if you were to buy one of those here for Marshall, you would wait a long, long time before you'd ever use it. In other words, it would probably rust away before you need it. And so that's the kind of stuff that I'm trying to tell you, is that kind of electrical service that's being provided to our customers here in Marshall is exemplary. And you don't need to go buy a backup generator because of the work that the employees have done here at MMU.
Okay. Let's shift gears a little bit, talk about the water treatment plant. Obviously, some construction that's going on out there. Can you kind of fill us in and give us an update on the water treatment plant?
Sure. Now, everybody, you might not be aware of this, but we started this project about 18 months ago, and it was to rebuild and install our water softening procedures and technology at the water treatment plant. Right now, the water that's coming to your home is pretty hard, and so people typically put in water softeners in their homes to take that hardness out of the water, and so your faucets don't get white, or your equipment lasts longer. So we put these water softeners in that require salt. So a couple of years ago, the state came to the city of Marshall and asked them, they said, listen, we've been measuring the water that you put back into the river system. So we provide the water, and then it goes through the sewer system of the city, and the city then treats that water, and it discharges it back into the river. It's clean, it's cool, it's all covered, it's all regulated. But the state said you're putting a little bit too much salt in that. And so we want you to cut back on your salt, your chlorides. And so we could ask everybody to stop softening their water, right? But of course, then that would lead to a lot of other issues. So we decided to treat it before it gets into the pipe, and that is to soften it at the water treatment plant. And that's what we're doing. When this is all done, we should be significantly done here at the end of March, and sometime in June go online full time. We should be able to significantly reduce your salt consumption in each one of your homes and each one of your softeners, because now the water coming into your house is already softened to a great extent. Not 100%, but to a great extent.
Sure.
And we'll talk about that some more in the next question, I hope that you're going to ask. But the point is that we had to put this $11 million project online so that we could start softening the water and then alleviating that extra salt that everybody else puts into their water softener system. Because once we give you soft water, you don't have to soften it as much.
Right.
Or you don't have to use as much salt, which means you don't put as much into the sewer system, which means you reduce the amount that gets into the river.
So you meant, what was the cost was, you said 11 million?
$11 million. Now here's the good news. That $11 million cost, $7 million of it came from the state. They gave us in the form of a grant.
Sure.
And the city and MMU shared the rest of that money, because it's a problem that we both have. MMU and the city is the amount of salt or chloride that we have in the water system.
So when this all is in place, what do the homeowners have to do? Are they supposed to do something? What are they supposed to do with their softeners? Or
we'll be talking about that a little bit more as time progresses. But the good news here is that you will be able to turn down your water softeners to get the same effect that you had before. In other words, your softeners don't have to clean the water as much because it's already been cleaned. And if you want it just like you had it before, you'll be able to turn down the amount of times anybody has a water softener, they call it a recharge cycle, where it cleans the filters of your softener. So we'll be able to turn that down so you don't use as much salt. So we'll be able to save you your annual salt costs. You won't use as much salt, so you don't have to buy as much salt. And so we'll be talking more about that in the future. We'll be giving you some guidelines and some directions on how to adjust your water softener. And if you need some help, we'll provide some more assistance.
Okay, good. Anything new on the horizon with renewables in Marshall?
Yes, I'm glad you said that. So MMU, Marshall Municipal Utilities, is a member owner of a power company a G&T, what we call them, Generation and Transmission Company, called Missouri River Energy Services, or MRES. We get power from two sources. When you come home and you turn on your lights, one source is from WAPA, which is the hydroelectric dams along the Missouri River. And the other source of that power, about 70% of that power, comes from Missouri River Energy Services. Now, Missouri River Energy Services has purchased 80 acres of land just north of Marshall, and planning, right now, they're planning on putting in a 10 to 12 megawatt solar farm there. And so you'll be seeing that right now. I just got off the phone with Missouri River, and they told me that they are planning on the spring of 2022 to break ground for that project.
Okay. Technology, obviously, we saw different forms of technology over the last year now, in different various areas with different kind of industries. Talk about technology with MMU, especially in the area of communication.
Oh, I'm glad you asked that, because what's important here is customer service. You know, utilities of the past had this meter on your house, either a water meter or electric meter, and every month somebody had to go by and read it so that we knew how much water you used or electricity you used for that month. And then we would take that number and we would bill that to you. So now what we have installed here at Marshall Municipal Utilities is state-of-the-art, what we call AMI, which is automatic metering infrastructure, which means that now your meter talks to us and tells us how much water you used or electricity you've used. And it gives us a lot more information. It gives us how much you use during the day. Because now, as we go forward, and as electricity and water costs rise, you're going to want to know how much you use any time of the day or night. And then you, as the customer, can decide how much you want to use of your electricity or of your water sources. And so that's the cool thing about this new AMI, is that we are working towards software, we call it the portal, where our customers can go online, pull up their electric or water meter, find out what they've used, how much they're using now, and how much, and they can start making decisions on that bill. How much do they want to spend that month by controlling their electrical and their water usage. And that's AMI. That's the technology that MMU is right now at the forefront of in the municipal family. And we are implementing new software to bring additional services to our customers. Never before could we do this now. We never had this information, now we do, and now our customers can use it to their benefit.
Sure, very interesting. So last question, actually it's not a question. You've been blessed with really good staff. And
Yes.
they have had a heck of a year or two. If you had any message for your staff or any of the other watchers out there, what would it be?
Well, I got to tell you, I've been here 7 months, and I am richly blessed and honored to be working with a professional, educated, smart group of people that during this COVID crisis, I have to ask you a question. Did anybody go home, turn on their light switch, and their lights didn't come on? When everybody else was quarantined, we had people keeping the lights on. Did anybody go home and when they went to their faucet, turned on that faucet, tried to get some water, did anybody not have water? And the answer to that would be no, because we had people, men and women, working hard every day to make that happen, even during the COVID crisis. My hat's off to MMU and their employees. I couldn't be more blessed, like I said, and I am honored and pleased to be able to be a part of that employee family. So thank you for your hard work. Thank you for all you do for the city of Marshall, and it is a pleasure to work with you.
Oh, great. Thanks, David. Appreciate that, and thanks again for being my guest. So let's talk about what's going on in March in the community. Obviously, February, we're starting to see a lot more in-person events. March, we're going to see more events in person too. If you haven't been to the Lyon County Museum, has got a lot of great exhibits. The one that they wanted to highlight for the month of March started this past Monday, the 1st, goes through the 31st. It's called a traveling exhibit. It's a traveling exhibit, Century of Civic Engagement, League of Women Voters in Minnesota. So that is what's at the Lyon County Museum. Please go visit it. The museum is a gem in Marshall. One chamber note, we have I think 4 chamber events or 3 events here in March for the chamber. One I wanted to highlight is our Women's Connect event next Thursday, the 11th. We have Detective Kaylin Sandgren for the police department, and Kaylin will cover what it is like to be a female in law enforcement, the education needed, as well as some safety and security tips for at work and in public. Traveling Trivia is back next Thursday. And David, this is something that you and the wife will have to go out to at some point. So this is an event that the Visit Marshall group has had now for a year and a half. Generally, it's electronic, and there's like a screen. Since COVID started, is you literally go there, you make a reservation, you go with your team of like 5, or you got more friends here in town, and it's a paper copy. Traveling Trivia, Applebee's, next Thursday from 5 to 8.
That sounds like a great time.
Absolutely. And moving forward, it'll likely be back at on the second Thursday of every month. So Applebee's in March. I'm not too sure where it's going to be. I think the golf course is going to be one of the spots upcoming. So stay tuned. 3rd annual Bonspiel tournament is going to be going on at the Red Baron Arena on March 19th through the 20th. David, we talked about before we went on air. I kind of asked, do you know what Bonspiel is? Now you do.
I do. It's called curling in the north.
Right.
I don't know about you southern Minnesota guys.
Right.
But it's called curling. Thanks.
Yeah. So if you're at all interested, this is a community services deal. If you're at all interested in the Bonspiel tournament, go to the community services website off of the city of Marshall. Last thing, our coupon book is out. So if you're at all interested in getting a coupon book, this is our biggest fundraiser. A lot of people don't realize the Marshall Chamber of Commerce is a nonprofit ourselves. The coupon book has over $5,000 worth of sales. And it's a $30 book. So oftentimes one coupon can pay for the coupon book. So please get a coupon book if you haven't already. There's several groups out there that are selling them for us. Obviously, you can stop by the chamber office and pick one up as well. New this year, it's our 11th year. You can download the Marshall, Minnesota app on your smartphone. And when you download it, you can actually buy the coupon book right on the app itself. So if you guys haven't picked up your coupon book, we're only a block away, David. So swing on in and pick up the coupon book. It is a buy local, shop local initiative, the coupon book is, because they're all local businesses. So it's just one more reason to go into the store itself. And David, you've been now 7 months. Great community.
You know, we've been really impressed. My wife and I love it. It's a great spirit in this community. It is a community. People are nice to each other. It is a clean town. It's a neat and orderly town. I'm very impressed with it, and couldn't be more happy to be settling in Marshall, Minnesota.
Good. And even though it's 7 months after, I know we've talked before, but welcome to Marshall, you and Renee. So
thank you.
Moving forward, so all these events that we kind of talked about today can be found on our website, which is marshallmn.org. Visit marshallmn.com is the visit website. I encourage you to take a look at those. Of course, we have Marshall Sports is still going. SMS Youth Sports is pretty much on hold until baseball and softball start. But keep a lookout for those. Marshsports.com is another great resource. So thanks again for tuning in to the March edition of Community Connect. I don't have a guest for next month, so I can't tease you yet who my guest is for next month, but soon we will get somebody lined up, and we'll see you in April.